Welcome, madam.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, welcome. Fine. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
So you have identified it, even though we didn't notice it.
It's fine.
So you have identified
So now
it.
SERC is fully
functioning
in person. It's offline.
Yeah, it's fully functional in person. I think even maybe 6 months. It should be more than 6 months we are functioning. In between, there was a little like a staggered 50% was there when the COVID was a little higher. Then now I think fully functional.
Okay. So that's good. That's much better than the rest of the country because Mumbai, I think, is the slowest. So even now, Mumbai, I will say is, that it's going to end one day.
I think it is required in person. It develops like interactions, more of interactions.
Absolutely.
And for us, it's for experimental investigations, we need to come.
Yes. No, absolutely. I completely agree with you. I think that even we are finding the efficiencies far more, if you are in person. So that's. So which room are you sitting in? Because this is not the room we have been using for.
This is for RC. We'll be using it for research council
RC?
meetings. The same room.
Okay.
Zoom out.
Is the same room which I used to use? It looks. It's much longer. Okay. Okay, it's long, right? Okay, it's the same. It's the same. Yeah. Now I can
think
see.
you may remember Dr. Kamakshi is here and Dr.
Of course,
Bharati.
I know her for many years. We've traveled also together, right?
Our controller of administration, Srimati Lakshmi. And then the right side is Vasumati and Ramya. She's from NML, National Metallurgical Laboratory, Vasumati. And Ramya is our newly inducted scientist.
Yes, I've heard the name because I've seen the reports. Yeah, great. So we are going to have the next meeting in person, right? The research council.
We plan.
Sure.
And can we start? I think we are on time.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Okay. Very good afternoon and a very warm welcome to one and all who have joined. Before the start of the function, I request everyone to keep your microphones muted for a seamless function. Chief guest of today's function, Ms. Alpa Seth, Managing Director, VMS Consultant Private Limited, Vakil Mehta Sheikh Consulting Engineers, Mumbai, Dr. N. Anandavalli, Director, CSIR-SERC and Coordinating Director, CMC, Dr. P. Kamakshi, Senior Principal Scientist, SERC, Srimati VVS Lakshmi, Controller of Administration, CSIR-SERC. My dear colleagues and friends, welcome to the celebration of International Women's Day 2022. International Women's Day is global celebration of social, economical, scientific, cultural, and political achievements of women. Apart from celebrating the accomplishments of women, the internationally recognized day marks a call of action for accelerating gender parity. International Women's Day urges everyone to actively call out gender bias, discrimination, and stereotyping against each other every time you see it. Aptly, this 2022 Women's Day takes the campaign theme of #Break the Bias with a broader theme of gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow. With immense pleasure, our center also joins in this year's celebration, and to make this occasion even special, we have with us Ms. Alpa Seth as chief guest. For our center, it is a proud and special day as well, as this is the first Women's Day being celebrated after shattering the elusive glass ceiling. We are now opening today's function with the welcoming remarks by our beloved director, who happens to be the first woman director of CSIR-SERC and CMC as well. With great pleasure, may I now invite you, ma'am, to deliver your welcome address.
Thank you, Dr. Bharati Priya. Chief guest of today's function, Dr. Alpa Seth. Advisor Management, Dr. Bharat Kumar. Head Advanced Seismic Testing and Research Laboratory, Dr. Kamakshi. Controller of Administration, Srimati VVS Lakshmi. Dr. Bharati Priya, Dr. Vasumati, and Dr. Ramya. And my dear colleagues, good evening. I am happy to be present at this International Women's Day celebration, and I welcome you all. I greet all the women of this campus a very happy Women's Day. Due to COVID restrictions, last year and this year, we had to conduct this function online. Every year, March 8th is celebrated as International Women's Day across the world. The purpose of celebrating Women's Day is to recognize the various contributions of women in society and raise awareness about gender equality. Adopted by the United Nations in the year 1977, this day is a reminder of the perseverance and the strength of mind of women in all across the world. The theme for International Women's Day 2022 is Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. Women are the real architect of the society. As said by Harriet Beecher, a famous American author, women really do build a society. They build not only themselves, but a whole community. Our first inspiration will be our mothers. For every human being, mother is the first teacher. We respect her for her patience, kindness, and support she gives. Towards sustainable tomorrow, the role of women is significant. It starts right from home. Small contributions in terms of avoiding using plastics is a small step toward a great impact. Reuse of water, recycling of products, segregation of waste, a few other things that are implicitly present in our daily life as homemakers. As India is celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, contribution by women in nation building is being recognized. STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and medicine are the prime engines that have steered national growth. Drivers of STEM engine are both women and men. Women have mostly been perceived as followers, colleagues, and not as pathfinders and leaders. In Indian STEM, the primary concern has never been with the number of women graduates. Impressive at 43% as opposed to the United States, 34%, and Canada, 31%. But with the proportion of those who ultimately land STEM jobs is 14% in India. India and worldwide efforts are being taken to sensitize the gender parity in STEM and to promote the future for women in STEM. In 2020, India celebrated National Science Day with Women in Science as the focal theme. And there are many women who have made a mark in their life by adopting unconventional path. Say, for example, Anandibai Joshi, who was the first Indian female doctor of Western medicine. Muthulakshmi Reddy, who lived between 1886 to 1968, was an Indian medical practitioner. She had a number of firsts to her name. The first female student to be admitted into a men's college, the first woman house surgeon at the government maternity, and many more. And she was the founder of the Adair Cancer Institute, which started functioning in 18 June 1954, and today it treats nearly 80,000 cancer patients a year. Today, we have a very special guest amongst us, and who is one among us, Dr. Alpa Seth. She's a structural engineer, and she is our research council member. Her involvement and critical review on the projects helps us to put the project in the right trajectory to achieve our goals. Thank you, Madam, for accepting our invitation amidst your busy schedule. I would like to conclude with a Tirukural, Solludal Yarkum Eliya, Ariyavam Solliya Vannam Soyal, which means it is indeed easy for anyone to say how an act is to be performed, but it is difficult to execute according to what has been said. And once again, I welcome you all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Entrepreneurship and leadership remain critical to harness the economic potential of women and thus achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. Women leaders as role model is a key to achieve this goal, and one such woman, Ms. Alpha Seth, is with us as chief guest of today's function. Though a very familiar face to many of us here, we take immense pleasure to formally introduce her for the august audience, and to do the same, I invite Dr. Kamakshi.
Thanks, Karthik. Respected Director, beloved Chief Guest, Alpha Seth Madam, UAE Madam, colleagues and friends, good afternoon. It is my great pleasure and privilege to introduce Ms. Alpha Seth. As Karthik told, Madam is not new to our campus. She has been our inspiration for the past 3 decades. Actually, she has been a Research Council member earlier also. This is the second tenure. Now she is one of our Research Council members. And there are a lot of things that can be said about Madam, but I will just briefly try to say a few things. Ms. Alpha Seth is a structural engineer and managing director of EMS Consultants Private Limited. She is the founding and managing trustee of Structural Engineering Forum of India with over 25,000 members. She has been the consultant and seismic advisor for Gujarat State Disaster Management Authority and a disaster management consultant to Maharashtra, and participated in numerous World Bank funded capacity building and disaster risk reduction projects. So especially after this Bhuj earthquake, January 20, so she has been a very big, she was playing a very big role. We all used to hear about webinars. At that time itself, we had a number of seminars conducted by people. She is one of the very good friend of Professor SKJ, and so we were all very much inspired by their combined work. And Madam has a special interest on earthquake engineering and wind engineering. She is a member of drafting group of numerous Bureau of Indian Standards codes, and she chairs the BIS Tall Buildings Subcommittee. She has been the chairperson of Academic Council of Kamla Raheja Vidyanidhi Institute for Architecture and Environmental Studies for over 12 years. Alpha Seth Madam has designed over 500 different projects. She has been involved in designing industrial complexes, institutional projects, malls, hospitals, hotels, and many infrastructure projects. And she has been involved in buildings, the design of buildings, which were more than 80 stories. Alpha Seth Madam holds a master's degree from University of California, Berkeley, and she is a fellow of Indian National Academy of Engineering. With this brief introduction, I will just invite Madam to deliver the International Women's Day lecture.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kamakshi. It's indeed my privilege to be part of the celebration under the leadership of Dr. Anandavalli, the first women director of SCRC. So, ladies and gentlemen, happy International Women's Day. I think true happiness would have been achieved when we really didn't have to celebrate such a day. We should just be celebrating a happy human beings day in a time when all discriminatory practices along gender lines would have been eliminated, right? It may not happen in my lifetime, but it will surely be happening one day. You know, this is akin to what I believe about disasters. Effective disaster management is about disaster mitigation. That is about the disasters which stayed invisible, rather than the noisy and messy disaster response, which even though that's what goes viral and gets accolades, we should be aiming towards disaster mitigation, right? So that's what I would hope, that in future we have such a lovely day that we don't really need to have a happy International Women's Day, right? So when I was asked to address this audience, I reflected on what has been occupying my mind regarding women's issues, which I would like to share with you. So much has happened in the past few years. There was this Me Too movement, right? And very recently, in fact, just in the past span of a couple of years, and something which is actually playing out live while we speak, there has been this unseemly incidents of two very star women of India's finance world who have unceremoniously fallen from grace, right? Then there was the recent hijab controversy, and not to speak of the numerous instances of abuse that we encounter on social media and newspapers on a daily basis. Abuse of women. But there are also stories of triumph and achievement. So while the first woman chairperson and managing director of NSE is in jail as we speak, the new SEBI chairperson brought in to clean the mess is also a woman, right? So it's so difficult to wrap one's head around all of these moments and events and incidents. So I decided to focus instead on an issue which really has confounded me since decades. And that issue is, why do women reject leadership positions? I'm talking about women who are sincere and competent, women who have grit and determination, basically women who have all that it takes to be an effective leader. And I'm inclined to believe that the root cause of a woman's reluctance to take leadership positions lies in her childhood. Since a tender age, the girl child in most traditional Indian homes, and I'm speaking about my generation, maybe things are changing, you know, in the younger groups, but in most of India, taking out maybe 10 urban cities, in most traditional Indian homes, even today, a woman, a girl child is trained to be obedient and agreeable, to speak softly, laugh delicately, and avoid confrontation. I think that's a very operative phrase, avoid confrontation. Any note of dissent is frowned upon. You are encouraged to seek concurrence from others and to find your own self-worth in external validation. I remember every day I would seek affirmation from my mother before I went to college. I would ask her, Mommy, how do I look? So she used to always have this funny thing. She would call me, hello, miss, how do I look? And I wonder how many boys asked that of their fathers. Sure, the Wayne boys amongst them always had a comb in the back pocket of their pants, but they seek validation of just one person, the image they see in the mirror. I think that the girl child gets accustomed to holding back her views and thoughts for fear of being ridiculed or berated or being unpleasant or unlikable. I think that fear of not being liked by people haunts the girl child from a very young age. And then, of course, even today amongst a lot of women in STEM, I find that they undertake fasts for their husbands. First a woman undertakes fast to get a good husband, and then they conduct these fasts for his long life, right? And this objectification of women, it transcends cultures, religions, and nationalities. One would remember the stories of how the feet of Chinese men were bound since childhood, so that they would remain forever dainty and attractive to men. Never mind the torture the girls endured in the course of this cruel practice. I'm going to show some pictures at the end. This is beautifully portrayed in a book called Good Earth by Pearl Buck. In India, we've had these practices, which again are cross-community, cross-country. So you have the Ghungat in North India, then you have the Burqa in some communities. A woman is given away to the man she marries, right? And this is by Kanyadan in a Hindu ceremony, or the father of the bride gives away his daughter to the man she's marrying in a church ceremony. So it's really the same thing. It's done because it's an object. You're giving a donation. You're giving the object. You're donating the object. And if you look back historically, women have been denied a position of leadership in all walks of life across. So if you look at religion, almost all religions do not permit women to be head priests, right? Since I'm a Jain, I can share with you some snippet of my encounter of denial to women to attain enlightenment. So I think if you know, we have Jainism has 24 Tirthankaras, right? And of the 24 Tirthankaras, one of them actually was a woman named Malli Kumari. Now, it'll astound you to know that I came from, or at least my grandparents are very religious. So I did have a very strong religious education. But through my entire childhood, I did not know that one of the Tirthankars was a woman. It was Malli Kumari. In fact, it was a Punjabi person who is an academic. He was the one who told me about this, but the story is hidden from all Jains, right? So at some point in history, Malli Kumari was miraculously transformed into a male Tirthankara called Mallinath. Okay. Interestingly, it is in a South Indian Jain temple that there are some images of the Tirthankara as a woman, and I'll show that picture to you later. But there are hardly 3 or 4 such images across the country. So, you know, somebody can argue that that was then. What does it have to do with the present? Okay, let's cut to the present. The most powerful and advanced nation in the world, the United States of America, has never had a woman president. And every time there is a woman who is a candidate for presidency, that's such a hoo-ha, right? As if, you know, it's some exotic creature from outer space who's going to stand for the presidency. So in such an environment, I think it's a Herculean task for a woman to fight this burden of discrimination that she carries in her genes, not just from centuries, but I would say from millennia. And it is this discrimination that is ingrained not just in women, but in the society, in men also. That is what molds women. That is what molds men. So for a woman to be accepted as a leader requires both sexes to cut through the deeply ingrained image of a woman. Actually, externally now, it all seems fine. There is a well-crafted dance of gender equality which is playing out as we speak, right? There is a mandate for all publicly held companies to have female representation. There is an affirmative action in place in selection of faculty and other stakeholders in various institutions and organizations. But let's dig a bit deep. What percentage of the women on boards hold the position on merit? And what percentage are there due to the all-pervading ill of nepotism? I need to have a woman on my board, so let me get in my wife, my mother, my sister or daughter. That way I can still be in charge. And we've seen this happen in politics too. Bihar is an easy example to recall. What is a true leader? A true leader is someone who has the courage to think differently, to question what has been done in the past, to question authority, to question the way things are run, who acts decisively and takes responsibility for her actions and decisions. More importantly, she is a creative and critical thinker. But as a result of subtle indoctrination in the formative years, a woman's path towards independent thinking is stymied. How does this system engage with the woman so that she can reclaim her inherent strengths and realize her innate talent? Now, this is something you'll find interesting, but I have found that an education in liberal arts or commerce or management sometimes allows for the development of thinking and communication skills much better, and it helps to jettison this conventional cultural narrative of women being better followers than leaders, which Dr. Anandavalli also alluded to. So it is therefore no surprise that internationally there are more women leaders from the liberal arts or management streams than there are from the field of science and technology. This may sound ironic and counterintuitive, but believe you me, this is indeed the case. In fact, a lot of engineering firms are led by women who are from the management stream and who don't have an engineering undergrad degree. So that's a very interesting thing. They have a chartered accountant degree and some such things. See, in these ever demanding STEM fields, women find it very difficult to have or create this mind space to question the establishment and think independently outside their field of expertise. There is no old girls network to fall back upon, unlike this ever-present boys network. There seem to be so many people out there waiting to see you fall off the podium. I'm talking about women. I think it's everybody is out there watching in glee when a woman falls off the podium. As I just said, we've seen what's happened to women. Maybe they deserved it, but anyway, let's move forward. I suspect that women in STEM have resigned themselves into believing that the freedom to work in their area of expertise, in their area of passion, that freedom comes with a price. And what is the price? The price is that they must be deferential, they must be amiable, and they must be agreeable so that they be allowed to do what they love to do. In the field of science and technology, we tend to be beyond the trinity of that, the ugly trinity, as I call it, the trinity of power, money, and fame. If they come as byproducts of the work we do, that's okay. But they are not the objectives of the work any of us out here are doing, right? We are blessed in that we have a passion for the field which we are pursuing. But in fields of management and finance, the focus is indeed on this trinity of power, money, and fame. And men and women are lured into this equally. There is no gender discrimination over there. Okay, both of them are like bees towards this honeypot. And the only difference over there between men and women is that men get away with more shenanigans than women do. So I'm not going to excuse what the women we are discussing about right now have done. But I think that there are greater crimes that men have done and they have gotten away. So that's where the difference is. And if somebody says, so what, they should also get away with, I'm saying, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, why aren't you punishing the guys who've done much worse things? But they have the old boys network, right? Which we don't. So where do we go from here? Despite my apprehensions, I know that in the next 100 years, if humankind survives climate change, the nuclear age, and whatever else, we will see a fundamental change in the role of women in the world. We will see more women breaking into the bastions that have traditionally been jealously guarded by men. More importantly, we will not have men patronizingly allowing women into boardrooms and committees, men making women chairpersons, directors, and whatever else. Women will barge into these spaces despite men, not because of them. The millennials and the Generation Z are already showing us the way. Firstly, it will no longer be a bipolar world of men and women. I don't understand this Generation Z, okay, because I just don't understand, because we are in an age of gender fluidity. These are concepts which, at least for my generation, it's very difficult to understand. But interestingly, living in this age of gender fluidity is going to accelerate this breaking of barriers and the glass ceiling for women. Because this movement, more than any other movement, will break the stranglehold that men have had over all institutions. It will take a century or two for this to happen, but it will happen. How do women prepare for leadership? I think one of the most important things, and that is the unlearning which women have to do, is to have a very clear idea of what is the right thing to do and to be driven by that tenet rather than be driven by the desire to be popular. not everyone in the world may like you if you are a person of integrity and will not work in accordance to their special interests. Because very often, somebody thinks he has put me in a particular position and therefore there is a pound of flesh that he wants to extract from me. And then he will feel so betrayed. Oh, I put you in that position and now you're not ready to do this for me. No, we will do what is right for the position, what is right for the job, and what is the right thing to do, period. I think leadership is a long and lonely path, and it's not meant for the weak. Women are gaslit into believing that they are weak. But you know what? They're not just not weak, but they have the courage to walk the lonely path. They just need to realize that courage of theirs. The next question women will always ask me is, why should we get into this snake pit? Because any leadership role is full of all kinds. It's a crown of thorns, right? So why would you take on leadership roles? I think we need to take on a leadership role because we have the opportunity to make the world a better place. Believe me, the world will be a kinder, more peaceful and calm place if women managed it. I think we have enough proof of that. And in closing, I'm just going to if you will allow me, I would just like to share a few slides. So as I said, okay, so let me see if okay, can you see my screen?
We could see it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Okay, great. I'm just gonna put it on. Okay. So this is what I said, so, okay, we've had two women who've not, who've fallen from grace. That's the past. Let's look into the future. We have now Ms. Madhvi Butch, who has been brought in to clean it up. And I know that she's a very capable lady with high integrity, and I think she's going to do the job. Let's wish her all the best. This is what happens to. These are the kind of feet that as the women get older, this is what used to happen with the binding feet in China. So that the shoes looked very small and delicate and dainty when they grew older, and when no man would have them, this was what was the shape and the disfigurement of the feet. And this has been documented in so many books about this evil practice of binding. Of course, this is not happening now, but I'm just saying all of us are carrying the burden of the millennial, last couple of millennia at least. As I said, I mean, it's not just about the Hindu Kanyadan. I think this giving away of the bride is the same thing in a church wedding. They just don't call it Kanyadan so explicitly as we do. To me, this is the most interesting. So this, I forget which temple it is, but it's a temple in the south. So this is just the front and back of the same statue. The statue doesn't have, I mean, the head, it's been decapitated. But as you can see, this is Mali Kumari, like, and you can see it's a female idol. And then, because how can a woman get enlightenment? So I don't know when, who, what sect. So there are two different sects. There's one sect which still, kind of acknowledges Mali Kumari, but she's never talked about, because trust me, I'm a Jain, and I had not heard about it, till 10 years ago when a non-Jain told me about it. And this is the Mali Nath, which she miraculously got converted to. And, this, I think some of us have seen the pictures of these ladies, and there was a talk about it, but, it was just sporadic, trending, something that most of the countries which had women leaders did so much better in COVID. When it's not a very convenient line, it just trends for a week and then it just vanishes. So, I think right now, we're not right now into, man versus woman. No, not at all. But I think that what we're trying to, say is this: we have to identify what are the challenges, and we need to accept that we have to take on leadership roles if we want to change the world for the better. Thank you so much. I think it would be lovely if we could have a nice, discussion between all of us about issues. I'd really like that. Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your very thought-provoking discussion, I would say, to start this, and what is the role of women and how it will be empowering to all fields, including religion, which is very rarely touched upon. Thank you so much for this talk on this wonderful day. I now invite my colleagues, Ms. Vasumati, Ms. Ajita Kumari, Ms. Ramya, and Dr. Subbulakshmi, to make a very brief presentation on this year's theme of International Women's Day. So over to Ramya.
Good afternoon to one and all, and I wish everyone a happy Women's Day. So today I'll be giving a brief talk about this year's theme, which is Gender Equality Today for Sustainable Development. You all know International Women's Day is celebrated annually on March 8th to commemorate the cultural, political, socio-economic achievements of women. It is also a focal point of the women's rights movement, bringing attention to issues such as gender equality, reproductive rights, and violence, abuse against women. The main aim why we celebrate International Women's Day is to celebrate different women achievements in various fields, raise awareness about women's equality, lobby for accelerated gender parity, and fundraise for female-focused charities. The main goal of Women's Day is to make the world more diverse, equitable, inclusive for all the women. I would like to just brief about how we started celebrating the Women's Day, because from 1900s in various parts of the world, separately they were celebrating a Women's Day, and starting from 1977 globally, everywhere we are celebrating Women's Day on March 8th. So first in 1909, the first Women's Day was observed across the United States on February 28th. Then in 1900s, there was an international conference of working women held in Denmark, where a lady called Lara Zetkin tabled the idea of celebrating Women's Day, and all the members approved it unanimously, and thus International Women's Day was celebrated. Then in 1911, some of the European countries and United States started celebrating Women's Day on 19th March. Coming to 1913 to 14, during the eve of the World War I, Russian women started celebrating the Women's Day on February 23rd. Then following which the International Women's Day was agreed to be celebrated in one day, which is March 8th. So in the year 1975 was the first year where the United Nations started celebrating the International Women's Day. And so currently now, every year we are celebrating March 8th as Women's Day internationally across all the countries. So as today's chief guest was asking, like, why do we need a Women's Day? We need a kind of measure which will tell us, like, why do we need Women's Day? Like a quantity or a number, where we are standing right now, and why do we need to celebrate a Women's Day? So the World Economic Forum has come up with a global gender gap index. This is an index, is nothing but we will rate from a scale of 0 to 100 for each and every country based on different segments, such as economic participation, educational attainment, health and survival, political empowerment, so that each country, we will be giving some marks for all these segments and see where we are currently. So the latest global gender gap report has said that at least in our generation, we will not be reaching gender equal world. And even they are projecting that when our children grow up, in their generation also will not be able to achieve gender equal world. So currently the numbers are like 68%, considering all the countries. So in this particular survey, 156 countries were participating. And they are projecting that it will take 135.6 years again, like to like match this gender gap. So this is like segment-wise numbers. Today, like we were talking about leadership also. If we see in world scenario, it is just 22%, and it will take another 145 years to bridge this gap. In economic participation and opportunity, it is 58%, and it will take another 267 years to bridge this gap. In terms of educational attainment and health, we have reached 95%, and in another 14 years, we will be able to bridge the gap. So I have listed out like which are the gender equal countries currently, like top 10 and top 3. All 3 are European countries with a percentage of Iceland of 89%, Finland of 86%, and Norway of 84%. So coming to like, we are always talking about the futuristic jobs, like now data science and artificial intelligence, computing, engineering, and all that. So where women are standing in those technical skills. So this graph projects like 8 different futuristic jobs and how much percentage women are currently occupying. And here it is like the projection from 2018 to 2021, how much increase has happened. We can see that, for example, some of the sectors like data and artificial intelligence, it has actually decreased and not increased, which is quite alarming. Coming to Indian scenario, the survey was taken between 156 countries, and we are standing in 140th position with gender parity number of 62.5. So different sectors wise, if we see, economic participation is like 32%, education attainment is like 96%, health and survival is 93%, and political empowerment is 27%. And in South Asian countries, we are in number 6. So this is like a comparative study, like in several segments, like where India is standing. And we can see like economic participation, we are almost like below average, I would say. Like, and health also, even though we have achieved like more than 90%, but still we are in the bottom of the table. Like, I would like to say like we have n number of problems in the world. So this gender inequality, a major problem. So to justify it, I would like to tell that the UN has given in the year 2015 about the Sustainable Development Goals, where they have prioritized the top 17 problems which has to be addressed very immediately. So in that, number 5 goal is gender equality. So from this, we can understand like how important it is to achieve a gender equal world. So there are 17 SDGs, out of which the 5th one is gender equality. So gender equality is not just a standalone goal, like it is multidimensional. Means if we are improving gender equality, all other sustainable goals also will see some development. So the interdependency of gender equality with other sustainable goals is just listed here, where some of the things are like clean water and sanitation and climate change also. If women are participating, it will improve a lot. These are some of the facts given by the United Nations, where they say that women earn only 77 cents for every dollar that men earn for the same kind of work. 35% of women have experienced physical or sexual violence. Women represent just 13% of agricultural landholders. Almost 750 million women and girls alive today were married before 18 years of age. So 2/3 of developing countries have achieved gender parity in primary education. Only 27% of national parliamentarians are like women, according to a data which was collected in 2000. So what they are planning to achieve, there is a agenda, like few points which we need to achieve by 2030, which includes like when all sorts of discrimination against all women and girls, eliminate all forms of violence, eliminate all harmful practices, recognize and value unpaid care, domestic work through provisions of public services, etc. Ensure women's full and effective participation and equal participation for leadership. Ensure universal access to sexual and reproductive health and rights. Undertake reforms to give women equal rights to economic resources. Enhance the use of enabling technology. and adapt and strengthen sound policies so that everybody will be treated as equal. So today, this year's Women's Day theme is Gender Equality Today for Sustainable Tomorrow. Gender equality is not only a fundamental human right, but a necessary foundation for a peaceful, prosperous, sustainable world. So the year 2022 has been pivotal for achieving gender equality in the context of especially climate change, environmental disaster risk reduction, and some other greatest global challenges. So women are increasingly being recognized as more vulnerable towards climate change. There is a statistics that women and children are 14 times likely to die when a kind of disaster comes compared to men. So this year's International Women's Day observance is in recognition and celebration of women and girls who are leading the change on climate change adaptation and response, and to honor their leadership and contribution towards a sustainable future. And this year we have a theme also called as Break the Bias, which prompts us to imagine a gender equal world, free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination. This theme aims to bring awareness to the gender biases women face every day in all walks of their life. So this is the sign which they have kept the hands crossed for the Break the Bias campaign. Next, coming to what is what is the definition of gender bias? It is nothing but a person receiving different treatment only because of their gender, even though they have the same qualification. So that we can measure through an index called as Gender Social Norm Index. So this has been collected from 75 countries, covering almost 80% of the world's population. And the results are really shocking to see, which tells that 90% of men and women hold some sort of bias against women. So if we see the numbers, in men to women, almost in the year 2010 to 14, 84% of the women hold bias against women only, and 89% of men hold bias against women, which is a very shocking number to see. And if we compare the numbers from 2009 to 14, it has actually increased and not decreased. I have been telling about Break the Bias. Now I would like to highlight some of the women's achievements so that we take the inspiration from them and work towards it also. So some of the leaders are women who have achieved in their own respective fields. So first of its kind and who have broken the bias. So I would like to highlight Kamala Harris. We all know the first VP of United States of America, and she assumed the job position in 2021. And Najla Bourdieu, who is a Tunisian geologist, and she is the first Prime Minister of Tunisia, female Prime Minister. And she is first female Prime Minister both in the country and one of its kind in the Arab world. And next up, we have Magdalena Andersson, who is the first Prime Minister of Sweden. Next, we have our first Director General, female Director General of World Trade Organization, and Josie Okonjo-Iweala. So coming to movie industry, we have Chloe-Zhao, who is in many years, especially this Best Director award was always dominated by male criteria. So she is the first Asian woman to win the Oscars for the year 2021 in the category of Best Director. So next we have Sarah Thompson, who is the first woman to ever officiate the Super Bowl, which happened in February 2021. So coming to our Indian criteria, we all know in the past decades, who are the women who have broken the barrier, and Mother Teresa, who's the first Indian to win a Nobel Prize in the year 1979. Indira Gandhi, our first female Prime Minister of India, and served for almost 10 years. Pratibha Patil, she is the President of India, first female President of India, first IAS officer, and Kalpana Chawla, first Indian woman to reach the space. Sania Mirza, who is the first to win Women's Tennis Association. Kiran Bedi, who is the first IPS officer. So I would like to project some of the women in the past 2-3 years who have reached height, and they were the first to break the barrier. So we have our first finance minister, full-time finance minister, Nirmala Sitharaman, and for Lieutenant Shivangi Singh, who's country's first woman who has ridden Rafale fighter, and she was also first batch of 3 female Indian fighter pilots. Next, as Chief Guest was also projecting, we have our SEBI head, who is Madhavi Puri, madam, who is the chairperson of the Securities and Exchange Board of India, and she is the chairman from 2022. We have Geeta Gopinath, who is the first deputy manager director of International Monetary Fund. Then, we all know that the Border Roads Organization is one of the difficult terrains to work all over the India. So we have Major Aina Rana, who is the first female Indian Army officer to lead this particular organization after serving the Indian Army for 9 years. We have our first, because still there are a lot of sectors where women are not allowed to work, and the mining is such sector. And Chandrayani Prasad Verma are one of, she's part of CSIR-SERC, one of our sister laboratories, who is the first female mining engineer. We have Leena Nair, who is the first female and the youngest ever global CEO of Chanel. And in terms of sports, if we see, always we see referee as a male person. So GS Lakshmi became the first woman to be appointed as International Cricket Council's International Panel of Match Referees in the year 2019. So coming to science and technology, women have achieved another heights in the sector also. Gagandeep Gang, who is the first Indian women scientist to be elected as a fellow of Royal Society, and Chandrima Saha, who is the president of Indian National Science Academy, that is INSA, and she has assumed the office in 2020. So coming to the this is one of the piece of information which I found interesting. Sainik schools were always for boys. And our Honorable Prime Minister of India, on the occasion of last year's Independence Day, announced that it is also open for girls from last year on, from 2021 onwards. So I feel we are progressing in a better way, seeing all these information. So coming to our institute, CSIR, I would like to take privilege to tell that currently we have 6 directors out of in 38 labs who are first female directors of different labs of CSIR. So I would highlight some directors who are first of their kind in our institute. So Dr. Lakshmi Kantam, who is the first female director of CSIR, Indian Institute of Chemical Technology. Dr. Madhu Dixit is the first female director of CSIR, Central Drug Research Institute. Then we have Dr. Kalai Selvi, who is the first female director of CSIR-SERC. Dr. Sridevi Annapurna, who is the first female director of CSIR Central Food Technology Research Institute. Dr. Suman Kumari Mishra, who is the first director of CSIR Central Glass and Ceramic Research Institute. Dr. Ranjana Agarwal, who is the first female director of National Institute of Science, Communication and Information Resources. And last but not least, we have our director also, Dr. Anandavali, who is the first female director of CSIR-SERC, Structural Engineering Center. So I would just close my talk by telling some of the statistics of our institute, comparing whole CSIR 38 laboratories. We have 8,522 male and 1,911 female. And out of 38 labs, we have 6 female directors currently. And in CSIR-SERC, we have almost 130 male and around 55 female representatives. I hope that in future this will also this gap will also be closed. I would like to conclude by telling that imagine a gender equal world, a world free of bias, stereotypes and discrimination, a world that is diverse, equitable and inclusive, a world where difference is valued and celebrated. Together we can forge women's equality. Collectively we can call it break the bias. I would like to also add let's not just stop only by imagining a gender equal world. Let's all work towards it so that we can live with, experience it one day. Thank you. I would call upon Srimati to continue the presentation. Good afternoon all, and I wish you everyone happy International Women's Day, and thanks Ms. Ramya. The theme for this year's International Women's Day celebration is gender equality towards today for sustainable tomorrow. In the context of call for climate change, climate action for women and by women. The international days and weeks are celebrated to educate the public on issues of concern, to mobilize political will and resources, and also to address global problems, to celebrate and reinforce achievements of humanity. March 8 every year is celebrated or observed to highlight the achievements made by women across the globe, and also to create awareness among women to take their stand and fight against gender discrimination in society. And it also gives an opportunity to reflect on the progress made by women and to call for a change. It also provides a platform to celebrate the acts of courage and determination by ordinary women who have played an extraordinary role. This year, UN has acknowledged and it is celebrating this 2022 year for women and girls who are leading the charge on climate change adaptation and response. This year is on the emphasis of climate change action steps prepared for women and by women. So this to happen, we need to have women and girls to empower, to have a voice, and to be equal players in decision making related to climate change and sustainability. See, without including half of the world's population, it is unlikely that a solution for a sustainable planet and a gender equal world would be realized tomorrow. Without gender equality today, a sustainable future and an equal future remains beyond the reach. Some of the challenges of the century are gender equality, achieving gender equality in context of climate change, environment, and disaster risk reduction. Hence, to give importance to that, UN have observed this year's International Women's Day in recognizing and celebrating the women and girls who are leading the charge on chemical change adaptation and response, and to honor their leadership and contribution towards a sustainable future. Why it is required? Because women are increasingly being recognized as more vulnerable to climate change impacts than men, as they constitute the majority of world's poor and more dependent on the natural resources, which are majorly affected by the climate change. And is climate change a women issue? No, actually, changing climate affects everyone, but it affects especially women and girls most, because they bear the brunt of environmental, social, and economic shocks. Here we can see an example, like the various consequences of drought, how a woman and girls are easily affected. See, there is an increase in violence against women, maternal deaths, child marriage, infections, hunger, malnutrition, illegal and land grabbing from women, and poverty. And also there is a decline in sanitation and hygiene reach for women, living conditions of women, food security, fuel supplies, and school attendance of girls drastically drops. Hence, gender is a significant aspect to be taken in account when considering actions to both adapt and as well as mitigate the climate changes. Climate changes affect women harshly and also differently, because they have a different kind of social roles and responsibilities. And we see in many of the countries, like women hold the roles as primary caregivers in families, and including India, and communities, and as the main providers of food, and are more vulnerable when flooding and drought occurs. UN has estimated that almost 80% of the women are being displaced by climate change. That's why this year it has been called for climate change for women, action for women and by women, because women experience great impacts by climate crisis, and it amplifies the existing gender inequalities and puts women's life and livelihood at risk. Across the world, women depend more on, yet have less access to natural resources and often bear a disproportionate responsibility for securing food, water, and fuel. There is a study conducted which tells that the literary levels in villages in UP revealed that the female literacy rates were higher in villages which are villages that have close to water sources accessibility. So here we can see directly or indirectly the climatic changing affects on the girls and especially our future generation. To mitigate this issue, there are few women leaders who are leading in this direction. And to name few, Patricia Espinosa, the UN climate chief, who stated that climate change policy doesn't start in the boardrooms, it starts in our houses and also in our communities. So we should get involved at that level, talk to others, convey the science and underline the urgency. And another eminent person, Amina J. Mohammed, climate adaptation champion and Nigerian's Federal Minister of Environment, says that the entire planet is going through a season of fire and floods. Countries and populations worldwide, particularly those most vulnerable and least responsible for climate crisis, will experience even more devastating consequences. Christina Figueres, Costa Rican diplomat and also the executive secretary of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, the stubborn optimism woman, states that optimism is not the result of success, it is also the starting point of success. And in the younger generation, we have Greta, a Swedish environmental activist who is known for her challenging world leaders to take immediate action for climate change mitigation. She states never too small to make a difference. We have few women who have achieved to that an extent that they are inspiring the next gen. We have here DC women of Melanesia. They are the three women, Israela, Naomi, and Evangelista, who are the UN Champion of Earth 2021, being recognized in the category of Inspiration and Action category by UN. And these women are actually a group of divers who are helping the women in the South Pacific region to the skills to monitor the health and coral reefs and to create and restore marine protected area. They are actually supporting the villagers so that they can rely on the abundant fish life for their future. And their call is for the generation restoration and let us revive our oceans. We also have another example of promising young environmental activist who is selected for UN India's Be the Change campaign is the Water Girl of India, Garvita Gulhati. She is a co-founder for Why Waste, an organization that prevented over 6 lakh milliliters of water being wasted with the help of over 5 lakh restaurants. She is also the Global Changemaker Awardee in the year 2018. She is working towards effective conservation of water and empowering young and to become a part of the change. We also have some of the ordinary women who made it like extraordinary through their work. Nemonte Nicomo is an indigenous activist and a member of Warani Nation from the Amazon region of Ecuador. She led an indigenous campaign and a legal action that resulted in court rulings that protected 5 lakh acres of Amazonian rainforest and Waranian territory from oil extraction. She has been the guardian of the Amazon rainforest. And we have another outstanding example of Padma Shri Salu Marada Timaka, an Indian environmentalist known to be who became without any conscious effort or pain or thought. Actually, she planted around 8,000 trees, including hundreds of banyan trees. She worked as a daily labor, and she is now profoundly referred as Salu Madara, which means row of trees in Kannada. Here and there we see a few examples, but actually if you want to achieve a global gender equality globally or to inspire more people, we need women political participation, which is a key component for women's empowerment. And it is a fundamental requisite for gender equality and a genuine democracy. It also facilitates women's direct engagement in public decision making, and it means a lot for the accountability to women. And in that direction, if we see women in policy making across the globe, we have almost 22 countries with the head of states or government, as mentioned by Ms. Ramya. And also it is like Europe, which has the most countries led by men. And apart from that, we have like there are 26 women serving as head of state or government in 24 countries as on September 2021. Women representation matters. Why? Because women leadership promotes equality and acceptability, and also women and girls are effective and powerful leaders and change makers for climate adaptation and mitigation. Here we can see the top portfolio in environment and energy was held by women in 2021, and also the male-dominated sectors like defense and finance, foreign affairs. Now we see a lot of improvement in those portfolios, almost 13.5% in 2021 in defense and 11.5% in 2021 for finance, and foreign affairs around 26%. Sorry, the year got shifted. And the women ministerial portfolios is around 21.3 in 2020 to 21.9 in 2021. And here are a few leading women policy makers, and they are like listed in the Forbes Powerful Women 2021. In the second ranking, the Vice President of US Kamala Harris, and India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman holding the rank of 37. Here and there we see few examples and few inspiring ladies and young generation who are coming. But to a sustainable future, what we need to do is we need to have a maximizing we need to maximize the economic, social, and environmental role of women. And we also have to examine the opportunities and the constraints faced by them. And we need to empower the women and girls to have their voice and to be an equal players in decision making. And related to climate change and sustainability, which is essential for sustainable development and greater gender equality. I would like to quote the words of Kalpana Chawla: "The path from dreams to success does exist." Yes, and may you have the vision to find it, the courage to get onto it, and the perseverance to follow it. I hope then if we have the dream and we wanted to succeed, and gender equality can be achieved, and we don't need to wait for more than 100 years. So together we can achieve a sustainable future for all, and let us step it up for gender equality. And thank you for this.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ramya and Ms. Vasumati. May I now invite Srimati VVS Lakshmi, COA Madam, to deliver the oath of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. I wish all happy International Women's Day. It has been such an honor to be a part of this wonderful event. On behalf of the organization, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed chief guest, Ms. Alfa Sheikh, Managing Director, VMS Consultants Private Limited, Vakil Mehta Sheikh, Consulting Engineers Mumbai, for delivering a thoughtful speech on women and leadership on this occasion. Thank you, Madam. I thank our Director, CSIR-SERC and Coordinating Director, CMC, Dr. Mrs. Anandwali, for giving us an opportunity for the International Women's Day celebration and share our joy on this happiest occasion. I would like to take this moment to thank and appreciate each and every staff and our wonderful guests who spend their valuable time to make this event a memorable one. I also thank Dr. Kamachi and team for organizing this event. I extend my gratitude to Ms. N. Ramya, Ms. N. Vasumati, Dr. Bharati Priya, and who all made a wonderful presentation on the theme of International Women's Day 22. I would like to thank our ICT division for making this event a grand success online. Finally, I would like to thank all of you to present here for making the time to be with us today and helping us making this event a grand success. Thank you one and all. Thank you.
With that note, let us close for today. I wish a very happy Women's Day, ma'am, and with your words we can.
Yes. Thank you, madam, for your presence and thought-provoking lecture. Like we need more women to come on board, and hope so. That has ignited some young minds. So thank you, madam, for your presence.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this, and I must congratulate Sonia and I think Vasumati, right?
Vasumati. Yeah.
Vasant. Yeah, okay, sorry. I thought they were excellent presentations, and congratulations. And I think this shows the depth of research that women do in everything that they put their minds to. I think it was a real privilege to be with all of you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.